Welcome. We're so excited to have you guys all join us today. We're here for the Salesforce Fellowship Program Candidate Information Session. We anticipate a very large group today, so I just want to start off with a couple of admin notes if I could. We are going to try to address the most frequently asked questions, but be sure that you're asking these in the chat for the Q&A. We'll stop a couple of times during the brief so that you can ask those questions and those can be addressed out loud. That'll be for the larger group. And definitely at the end, we'll have a Q&A. And then also, in addition to that, we will provide my email information so that you can send those questions to me that may pertain particularly to you. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm Stephanie Murphy. I'm the program manager for Hiring Our Heroes Salesforce Fellowship Program. It's been my privilege to partner with Salesforce and work in this program for almost about a year. After the pilot program last year, we're excited to be extending this partnership with our friends at Salesforce and including transitioning service members. So with that, I would love to introduce my boss. She is the director of the Military Spouse Fellowship Program. However, she does quite more than that. She's been with Hiring Our Heroes over 4 years. She manages all the great large partnerships like the Salesforce one, and a dear friend of mine. So I'm going to turn it over to Crystal.
Thanks for that great intro, Stephanie. Hello to everyone, and thanks for tuning in with us today. We're really excited to have everybody here to learn a little bit more about our Salesforce Fellowship Program. I couldn't be more excited to continue this partnership and now grow it to include our transitioning service members. We've already had such great results, and we look forward to really scaling it and serving more and more transitioning service members, military spouses, and of course, veterans. So with that, I just want to say again, thanks to everyone for joining us today. We'll do our best to answer your questions. Know that also we'll share contact information. So if we don't get to your questions, feel free to send us an email. And also I would like to introduce Jared Crane, who is with Salesforce as the Director of Workforce Partnerships, and I'm going to help share some information about Salesforce with us today.
Crystal, thanks for having me on today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with this great community about this phenomenal program and how we're continuing to be able to grow it.
Awesome. So I'd just like to start off by sharing with everybody who Hiring Our Heroes, how we are associated. We are part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the foundation piece, which is the nonprofit arm. And we do absolutely nothing but service the military population, whether that's veterans, military spouses, service members that are transitioning out for employment opportunities. Next slide. And as we do that, our vision is really to help that civilian military divide and connect with business communities. So again, our mission is to really find the military community employment opportunities. So with that, on the next slide, one of the fabulous fellowships that we have is this partnership with Salesforce. So I'm going to let our friends at Salesforce explain a little bit more about that. Jared?
Stephanie, thank you. One of the questions we get pretty frequently is, what is Salesforce? I struggled through this as well. I retired from the Army after 20 years in the infantry, had never heard of Salesforce before. And whether or not you know it, everyone that's on this call has interacted with Salesforce before. If you've ever used the Starbucks app, booked a hotel room with Marriott online, ordered anything from Adidas, you've interacted with Salesforce. And we are a software company that helps bring companies and their customers together. We work in cloud computing, and we're what's known as a customer relationship management, a CRM platform. Salesforce has over 150,000 customers globally, and we're working with such companies as USAA, Starbucks, Marriott, you've all heard before, AT&T, Deloitte, Accenture. All of these are companies that are using our platform and our software to be able to work day in and day out and be successful. Our success is those companies' success. And about 6 years ago, we realized that there's an opportunity for us to be able to tap in with this audience, the military community. The reason being is, as you note there in red, we're projecting in the next few years that there's over 4 million new jobs associated with the Salesforce ecosystem with our customers and partners. And the military community, veterans and military spouses, are absolutely the kind of folks that we want to be able to try and connect with these kinds of opportunities. It's an incredibly fast-moving, fast-growing industry, and these opportunities keep popping up every single day. If I could get the next slide, please. And the way we do this, the way that we help connect the military community to through these opportunities is the Salesforce military program. If most of you are on your computers right now, if you jump onto salesforce.com/military, that's our website where we offer free training, certifications, and connection to career opportunities for service members, veterans, and military spouses. The program is, as you note here, it's separate from HOH, but it gets you in the door to these opportunities to become certified on the Salesforce platform. Currently, we offer 17 certifications that folks are able to take, and it's not a one-time thing. You're able to, you can go through all of these trainings to become further certified, further desirable, and best position yourself to get access to the opportunities that come with the certification. The certifications themselves, they start at a very basic level. Hey, what is cloud computing? What is a Salesforce administrator? And they walk you through the process. The training itself is completely online, completely self-paced, and completely free. So, if you're doing it at home, if you're watching your child's basketball game, we even have an app where you're able to learn, or at the DMV. I did that personally myself when I went through the training, but we're here to be able to help you, meet you where you are, and get you to where you want to go. If I can get the next slide. So a couple of steps to go through this process, right? How do you get to it? First, if you get onto the website, salesforce.com/military, there's going to be a register button that you can go through. You click on that, and we utilize a system called Troop ID, or ID Me. For folks within the United States, it's a pretty simple process to verify your eligibility as a veteran, service member, or military spouse. Part of that as well, if you have a USAA membership, it streamlines that process to confirm your eligibility. Once you're through there and you complete your registration, you begin training on Salesforce, that online training platform called Trailhead. You get signed up, you get registered, and you go through that self-paced training. Typically, we see folks can take a few days to a month, 2 months to be able to complete the online training portion. But again, it's based on where you're at and the available time that you have to go through it. Once you complete the training that's associated with the certification goal that you've identified, you're then given a voucher to be able to take the certification exam. Typically, there's a charge associated with that, but for the military community, we offer all of this free of charge. We cover everything associated with it. There's also an option to take a virtual class to be able to review the modules and the training that you've gone through. And you can elect into that. Typically, there's about a $5,000 charge that comes with those classes. But again, we cover, for the military community, we cover that cost specifically. If I can get the next slide. Nope. Sorry, as I forgot to mention, if you take the first exam and you don't do well, you need to retake it. We also cover the costs associated with the retake. It's not uncommon, but we want to make sure that you're successful as you go through that. On the backside, right? Let's talk for a brief minute about what are the careers that are open to me. Really, it's almost limitless where you're able to go with this. A lot of people will associate, hey, I've got this kind of a certification, I need to work in this area. I typically encourage folks to look at this as more of a tool in your toolkit. When you get some technical training on this platform, it opens up a ton of opportunities and areas that you're able to connect with. Rather than think of yourself as thrown in one bucket, look at where you want to go. If you are a logistician or you love working in logistics, there's a ton of opportunities within the logistics field that you can step into and become more competitive because you understand the Salesforce platform. If you're interested in consulting, there are countless opportunities in companies that are hiring consultants that specifically help with Salesforce implementation. And most of the consulting companies are using Salesforce already. If you're able to show that you're familiar and proficient on that platform, it's very quick for you to be able to move into these areas and these fields. These are a few of the areas that we see folks going to frequently. Salesforce administrator is one of those entry-level roles. But if you look, everything from administration, helping to manage an org, manage a system for someone, developers who are building the actual the program or the org for someone, all the way through sales managers. All of these are roles and areas that you're going to be able to tap into with those certifications and that expertise. Can I get the next slide, please? And I know most of you have come here because Hiring Our Heroes is one of those, if not the best access for the military community to be able to tap into employment opportunities. But last year we recognized that there's frequently an issue with transition folks, right? And it's the chicken or the egg program. I've got a certification, but no one's going to hire me unless I have experience specifically in this area. And I can't get experience unless someone hires me. So a year ago, we created the Salesforce Talent Alliance to specifically address this. Currently, we have over 300 companies that have signed up to guarantee automatic interviews to anyone through our platform that earns a credential. So if you complete the administrator certification, and there are 200 companies that currently are looking for folks with that credential, you're guaranteed interviews with all 200 of them. It's not a one-shot thing. The other piece with this is these companies are looking for individuals that have less than 6 months of experience on Salesforce. Typically, that's really difficult to find, right? How do I break into and get that entry-level job? I'm moving into a new industry that I'm not familiar with. You need to have an employment partner that's willing to grow with you. And that's that part where the no experience necessary comes in. The third aspect that we're working on this with is the no degree requirements, especially for some of our junior enlisted. It's not necessary for you to go and get a computer science degree to get into these career fields. Taking degree requirements away from these job listings, it opens that up absolutely, and it gives you access to these right off the bat. And the last one is that pre-built LinkedIn network. For anyone that's transitioned, I know when I was getting out in 2019, the one thing that got hammered into me was I needed to get on LinkedIn and I needed to start networking. We've recognized that and we've built in an exclusive network for our Talent Alliance members and also the employment partners to help you to be able to connect with these companies and also connect with other job seekers that are looking in the same areas. So the Talent Alliance is another safety net as we think about it. So while HOH is absolutely driving the ball, there's plenty of other opportunities as you go through this training to be able to connect with career opportunities to help you be able to start the career and grow the career that you want to. And Stephanie, I'd like to turn it back over to you.
All right, so we'll pause right there and try to address a couple of the questions that keep coming up. Any of the panelists, if there's a question you want to send out to Jared or I to answer.
Okay, so the questions are coming in fast and furious, but there's a few that I think would be great to have you guys start with. One is, will there be assistance available for questions about training or how to navigate the certification training?
Yes, I think there's two specific with that. First is the training is pretty intuitive as you work through it. And going through the Salesforce military website, it's outlined. The sequence of training is pretty well outlined. If you hit a problem specific with the process or anything like that, Trailhead, as well as Salesforce Military, we do have help sections that you're able to tap into with FAQs, but there's also the opportunity to submit a trouble ticket. And typically within 48 hours, we're able to answer back to you to help to resolve those issues.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jared. The next question is from Kelly. I see that there are roles in administrator, consultants, analysts, and developers. However, are there cybersecurity roles? And she added, I used Salesforce for an analyst job and I loved it.
Of course, you loved it because it's Salesforce and it's fantastic. There are not as many cybersecurity roles that we're seeing specifically within the ecosystem. And the training that we have doesn't really go towards cybersecurity. However, I would push you back to thinking of this as a toolkit as opposed to just getting into a specific bucket. Getting access and getting familiar with this platform is only going to make you more competitive when you're looking at some of those cybersecurity roles and those opportunities that are out there.
Thanks, Jared. So the next question is from Connor. Do I need to have the administrator certification before going for a developer cert?
I would recommend yes, especially if you're not familiar necessarily with the platform or how to manage or work on Salesforce. Administrator or platform app builder are really our two entry-level certifications that will help to build you up. Jumping straight into developer is somewhat more difficult. And typically, for you to be successful, you're going to need that foundational understanding of what Salesforce is, the platform, and how to be able to work within it.
Great. I think I had one more come in here. And then we do have quite a few more, but we'll note everybody that we'll continue taking them after Stephanie's portion, which will answer a lot of your questions about SkillBridge and specific questions about the fellowship. Jared, this one's for you from Paul. After conducting initial research on the Salesforce workforce, I read that it's forecasted that administrator roles aren't anticipated to be as in high demand as developer roles. Can you share any additional information on this?
Absolutely. So first is, I would say I've seen similar work. I've seen similar type publications with that. However, I think that's similar to that bucketing issue that we talked previously. If you limit yourself to just say, I have a admin cert, this is what I want to be at, this is where I want to be, you're limiting yourself on the job search and the opportunities that are available. There is definitely high demand for folks that are more experienced or more familiar with the platform. However, we have not seen folks with certifications that languish or are not able to find opportunities. The second piece I'd push with this is slowing down of hiring with administrators is like talking about a Formula One race car that's in fourth gear as opposed to fifth gear. The Salesforce ecosystem and positions that are associated, we had over 500,000 positions, I think, in the last 12 months. And even with the pandemic, we're continuing to see these positions grow and expand. So, the opportunities are absolutely there. And getting that, even if stepping into and getting the administrator certification, you're putting yourself in a position where you're able to get to some of those much more in-demand opportunities that much faster.
Great, thanks, Jared. With that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie and we'll kick off the fellowship portion.
Perfect. I'm sure there's lots of questions coming for me. So let me try to go over the details of the actual fellowship for you. So as you understand, we are partnered with Salesforce to do this fellowship. It is open to transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses, 100% virtual and remote for the whole 12 weeks. You as a certified Salesforce individual will receive this hands-on experience with host companies. And you're interviewed with HOH. And if you make it through that gate, then you'll be able to be in a resume release to interview with host companies. There's a matching process. and you'll receive that during the fellowship, and I'll explain all those details here next. Next slide. So who's eligible? Let's just talk about that right up front. Again, transitioning service member, and I'm going to go in a little bit more detail about that, the skill bridge and the command approval and details in another slide. Veterans or military spouse. Who's a military spouse? Anybody who was impacted by their service member's career. So it's very open, and we accept that. Currently, you need to be working on a certification or have one and have the ability to prove that with an exam date by the application date deadline for the cohort that you're applying to. And again, I'll get into that a little bit more specifically, and I'm sure you have some questions on that. Also, you must be available for the whole 12 weeks of the fellowship. So if you're a transitioning service member, you're going to have command approval. It's going to be your place of duty during that time frame. If you're a veteran and military spouse, you must be available during normal business hours, Monday through Thursday and Fridays, to be able to do this. And if you have a full-time job elsewhere, then we'll discuss that in the interview, and it is not allowed because you're needed with your host company. Must be able to work without U.S. sponsorship, must be able to work in the U.S. without a sponsorship, and then of course have your application completed. All right, next slide. And let me just say right now, if there is any interest whatsoever, do not hesitate to go ahead and apply now. And the reason is the minute you apply, you will receive an email from myself within 2 business days. We've had a flood of applicants, so it's taken a while to get through all of them, but you'll receive all of these details. You'll get the deadlines, you'll get the dates, you'll get all the resources, you'll get how to pass those exams if you're working on it. If you're a transitioning service member, you'll get that command approval needed details and what's expected of you too. So let me just talk about that a little bit in these 2 different populations. Transitioning service members. So you're unique in the fact that you're on active duty, right? You have the opportunity to do what's called a skill bridge program. We have an MOU with the Department of Defense that allows you to do this. You have to be in your last 180-day window. So what that means is from the first day of the fellowship of whatever cohort that you're going to be qualified for to the last day of active duty needs to be a 180-day window. Now, last day of active duty, this does not mean when you start terminal leave. It must be the last day that you're actually receiving pay as a DoD employee. You will need to get command approval. So your command will need to sign off on that. And you will also need to make sure that your installations transition office paperwork is all taken care of as well. Every installation and every branch has a few little different quirks. So it's on you to make sure that that's taken care of. You submit that, and then that would make your application complete as far as your portion of command approval. You also need to be able to work and accept a position from your host company 30 to 45 days after the fellowship. Okay, veterans, military spouses, you're not part of the active duty, and our host companies can't have free labor. So Salesforce sponsors your stipend during the fellowship of $25 an hour. This is not tied to any salary potential for the follow-on role. It's a national average that Salesforce and the partnership has set. And then you're paid through a third-party agency that we've used for years in HOH and other of our fellowships to help become your employer and act as during that time frame. Okay, next slide. So how does the process work? Again, I highly encourage anyone who's remotely interested to just go ahead and apply. If for some reason you don't make it through this next cohort, you want to move to the next one because you didn't get your certification, that's totally fine. If you're a transitioning service member, when you fill this out, I'll be able to let you know which cohort you qualify for, depending on that 180-day window. If you don't make it or qualify and you want to come back when you get out and apply as a veteran, you can do that as well. So once you apply, you'll receive an email from myself, and it has everything in there about the program that you need to know. What next steps are, how to get the certification, some resources in helping you engage in the ecosystem of Salesforce. And then once you meet those gates, then you will receive next steps for doing an initial interview with HOH. So when you do this interview with Hiring Our Heroes, with myself, this is a great way for us to make sure that what we have on file for you is correct. You're catching any transitioning service member paperwork, making sure that's all correct. And then we're checking to see if your technical ability is going to be able to move to the host company interview phase. And we also want to make sure you're representing the U.S. Chamber, Hiring Your Heroes, Salesforce, and the host companies while you're in the fellowship. So then you will receive notification of moving to the resume release. And this is where everybody competing with you that's made it to this stage would be released to the host companies that have agreed to participate in the cohort you're competing for. And they will decide who they want to interview. They'll reach out to you directly. So it has everything to do with their needs and what skill sets you bring to the table. So not everybody gets an interview and not everybody gets a fellowship. However, host companies know that you are qualified individuals, and I help to keep that communication going so that everyone can try to get an interview. Then there's the matching process. This is where in the last day of the interview window, everybody owes me a preference sheet, all of the host companies and all of the candidates. Then I do a matching process. And again, not everybody receives a fellowship. If you do, you will be notified by myself, and then you will have 24 hours to accept. The host company will be notified that you are going to be a fellow with them, and they'll start that onboarding process. Fast forward, we'll do a 2-day fellowship before the week you start with your host company, and this will set you up for success for your fellowship. So we mentioned you work Monday through Thursday with your host company. On Fridays, we have what we call huddles. We're told this is the secret sauce to our program. This is where you have an opportunity for 8 of the 12 Fridays to come together, not only with your peers and really understand the different challenges everybody's going through during the fellowship and work those things together, but you also get to hear different topics on professional development, on salary negotiations, and details that are going to help you be better as you move forward. Okay, next slide. Here's just an examples of what these Friday huddles can do. Now that we're adding transitioning service members to our program, we will make sure that they are also receiving all of the typical transitioning topics that the rest of HOH Corporate Fellowship Program does as well. And they will have those opportunities to have multiple topics for them too. But salary negotiations, understanding compensation and benefits, it's not just about the yearly salary. How to further certifications, strategic communication in the workplace, and really networking with other individuals. All right, next slide. All right, just want to recap a little bit. So all fellows work Monday through Thursday with their host company while in the fellowship. You are off on Fridays, technically as far as your host company, but then we come together as huddles. You'll observe any host company federal holidays. Transitioning service members, you're in active duty still, but this would be your place of duty. Veterans, military spouses, this is your stipend of $25 an hour, paid through a third-party agency, and Friday hours are not allowed. All right, next slide. Here's just an example of a list of the host companies we've had in the past. Many of them will be participating in this next cohort. When you make it to the phase of learning you are moving to the resume release, you will also receive the list of the participating host companies so you can start researching and figuring out a little bit more about them so you can be the best candidate possible during your interview time. Next slide. All right, so here are the dates for the rest of the cohorts for the year. The very next cohort that we are processing actually has a deadline of next Friday, the 16th. So again, I highly encourage, if you're interested, to apply as soon as possible so you can start receiving the information on that. And then you can see the third one there. All right, next slide. Here's a few quotes and former fellows from our last 4 cohorts with the partnership with Salesforce that have just shared their experience with the fellowship. It's been fun to work with them, and they love helping those that are coming behind them. So if you make it through those phases, I have no doubt you'll connect with these individuals. Next slide. All right, so here's my information. We're going to start a Q&A session here in a second, but if we don't get to that, your specific question, feel free to email me. I'll do my best to get back to you in 2 business days. Also, here is where to go and apply. And here is where you should go for the Trailhead Military to get started on your certifications. And even if you don't make it into the cohort or into the program, it's great to go ahead and use this benefit as free certifications with Salesforce. But I will pause there and see what questions we have.
All right, Stephanie, we have a lot of questions for you.
That's good.
So let me start here, and some of them are really great questions, and forgive me if maybe some of them have been touched on, but there are a few that are getting asked multiple times, so wanting to make a second pass at it. So Danny asks, I'm a PM who just obtained my project management PMP. Where would a PMP fit with Salesforce?
So great question. Anytime you have additional background skills, it's always coupled well with any of our fellowships. So project management might be something great, as Jared had mentioned, in the consultancy, being able to manage projects. However, also it could be great as an admin, depending on the size of the admin job, if it's in-house for end users, or if it's doing implementations for the clients. Being able to manage multiple projects, or however that works within this, scope of what the host company needs. So that's a great background to have. If you already have it, then you might have a little leg up.
Perfect. And Ron is asking, are there online training opportunities for people overseas?
So that's a great question too. So let me clarify on that overseas part. If you're just looking to obtain your certification, totally open to anybody in the world, wherever you live. If you're looking to apply to the fellowship, at the current time, transitioning service members that can receive command approval that live overseas, that agree to work in US business hours, which will be difficult depending on where you are, you can go ahead and compete. At this time, though, we're working on it. But military spouses, because of SOFA reasons, and veterans, we're not able to do that right now.
Thanks, Stephanie. So Jenna asks, how competitive is the fellowship program to get into? And I see we do have a couple of questions on that, asking sort of, what are the acceptance rates?
Sure. So I only have the last 4 to go on. And because I mentioned there's all these gates. So to give you a little bit of an idea, we have almost 450 people who have applied for this next cohort. Not all of you will finish your application, and not all of you will get your certification in time, right? So that's okay. You can compete in the next one if you're not a transitioning service member during that time frame and need to reapply as a veteran. But then once you do the interview with myself, it's a successful rate moving past that if I feel you're going to be a great candidate and you've met all the gates for your application, which is why you're doing an initial interview. However, it really is dependent on the skills that you bring to the table, minus just your certification, and what the host companies are looking for that are competing in that cohort. So let's give an example. If we had a resume release of 50 individuals, we might not get more than a 36% or 36 or 40 members being able to be matched. Again, not everybody is matched with a fellowship, and it's just how it works out. So I would say maybe like 70% moving forward, but I even hate to say that because every host company's needs are different every single cohort. Did that help a little bit?
Thanks, Stephanie. And I think if people have further questions on that, definitely feel free to reach out to our team with questions. We've had a couple of questions about qualifying for the program in terms of our reservists and our National Guard. And I'll help out with that just a bit. Generally speaking, to be considered a veteran, you must have been in an activated status at some point. So for our Guard and Reserve, you're absolutely welcome to apply to the program if you were at some point activated and are leaving that active duty status. There are certainly individual situations, so feel free to reach out and we can help with individual questions on it, as we know that kind of gets complicated and sticky sometimes. This is a great one that I think applies to a lot of people. So Zach is asking, for transitioning service members, how far out from separation or retirement would it make sense to apply for the fellowship program?
Great question. So I'd say now. It's never too early to do this transition, right? Jared's laughing. He knows. My spouse just retired last fall after 25 years, and he started about 2 years out on what he wanted to do, getting on LinkedIn, connecting with people, doing informational interviews. And then too, how much time demand is in your current job to what you can dedicate to doing to Salesforce, those self-paced certifications. So I would say it's never too early. However, that being said, we really only publish our dates for our cohorts about 18 months to 2 years out. They run about the same time frame, but we're not going to have those published. But I would say it's never too early.
Fantastic. So Roger asks, if we're working on a certification and have an exam date, what is the drop dead requirement for certification in order to participate?
Sure, great question. So I must, by the application deadline, have at least that confirmation of your exam scheduled. So once I have that, that's fantastic. Then, in order for you to be matched with a host company, if you make it to the resume release, remember I talked about that preference sheet that I'll have that very last day of that interview window, and each one's a different time frame for each cohort, but you'll receive those details whenever you apply. So on that last interview day with host companies, not only is that preference sheet due to me, but I must have your certification in hand on that day as well in order for you to be matched.
Thanks, Stephanie. So Joe is asking, if I'm currently applying to be in the next HOH corporate fellowship and I don't get matched to a company, can I switch over and apply for a Salesforce fellowship if I start the certification training?
Perfect, great question. So what is very nice as we launch this second edition of partnership is the Salesforce Fellowship Program for Cohort 2, which is the applications due next Friday, is about 1 month to the right of Corporate Fellowship Program. So if you don't get in there, absolutely you can apply. However, you must be on active duty through August 20th. So there may be some paperwork on your command work to go back and look for if that's not. Moving forward, we will be aligned with CFP, so you can compete in both of them at the same time. And once the resume releases are done, then you can decide which one you decide to do. There is a two fellowship program limit, meaning if you're doing, say, Fort Carson and Salesforce, okay, but if you're doing Fort Carson, you want to move to JBLM and you want to move possibly San Diego, oh, okay, let's do Salesforce. You're not allowed to do that. You're allowed to do 2. Did that help?
I think so. Okay, so I think you've already answered this, but just to make sure, because I think it comes up fairly regularly, Jose is asking, the 12-week program is virtual. How about after? Will the job be virtual or will I have to relocate?
So that's what's fabulous about this program. 95% of the jobs after the fellowship are remote. However, when you apply, you'll do some information that I will provide to the host companies. And one of the questions will be, are you willing to relocate? So during that interview process with the host company, that is a question I will help coach you to ask and the host companies know to ask. But there are very, very few companies that expect the role to be in person after the fellowship, which is wonderful about this program.
Fantastic. I'm just scrolling through questions. Let's see. Eduardo Lopez asks, who gets the command approval form for active duty service members? My career skills advisor could not do it for me.
Good question. So as they can't do it for you, they should have the form that your branch should fill out. However, I will provide what is for the majority, and I say Army because just by numbers, that's the one I will provide. You're welcome to use that if your career skills office will accept it. If not, then we can work together one-on-one, but it is the responsibility of the service member to work with their transition office to have the correct paperwork. Also, we've also done, if there's a command letter from your commander, and I can go through those details with you too.
Great. Still scrolling. What if you're attending school? Is it good to still apply?
If you can manage that. So if you can manage going to school and studying at times that are not normal business hours, then, that's on you.
Totally agree. Okay, so Ashley says, how frequently is this fellowship program run?
Great question. So typically we do 3 a year. The pilot was last fall, 3 and 5 months, which was wonderful. Glad it's over. And now we're just on a pace of 3 a year, but we do 3 a year.
Awesome. I'm looking, I think most of the questions have been answered. Let me just scroll through really quickly to make sure. And I think we answered this, but when does cohort 3 open for applications?
You can apply now. So whenever I send you the information, of course, the focus is on cohort 2 with the deadline next Friday, but all you have to say to me is, I really want to apply to cohort 3. I'll move your application to that cohort and I'll send you the appropriate email with those details. Of course, unless you're a transitioning service member, then you fall in a specific cohort and I'll let you know that whenever you apply.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm just going to quickly ask Danielle and Kelly if they see anything there that I may be missing as we've kind of shifted through so many questions.
All right, no others. Danielle, you have any others?
Hi, Stephanie. We have a few that are kind of maybe specific to certain people. If folks are looking to, ask, what about my specific situation, making a career change, having done something else for a long time, what is the best way for them to talk to you about those individual questions?
Sure, so they can just send me an email. That was in that last slide. It's sm@uschamber.com. Feel free, send me an email. I'll do my best to answer. I'll probably provide you with some resources to help you with that, as some of those questions are very personal with you and your family to figure out. But definitely I'll do my best.
Okay, so I'm sure we missed some questions in there. So again, I'll say, please do feel free to reach out to our team to answer any further questions. But I think that covers most of the questions we have today, Stephanie. So I'll turn it over to you to close out.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today and helping us give you the information that we know. We'll look forward to answering your questions and helping you if you apply. And again, if it doesn't work out in the fellowship or for timing, what have you, you're still welcome to go and do the certifications with Salesforce. It's a great career field to be heading into, and we appreciate your time today, and good luck to everybody.
Stephanie, do we have a couple of minutes still by chance?
Absolutely.
I
For you,
did
Jared.
well, I wanted to cover kind of some of those frequent questions that we get come up to maybe give folks just a little bit of predictability or to maybe answer some questions that they might have as they go through. And you know, the first one, and I think I believe I saw it in there a couple of times, remote work, right? Like relocation. You mentioned it that the fellowship it's a remote position, a remote program. But what's really great about Salesforce is it's enabling that remote work from anywhere type of environment. So, you know, if you're in Colorado, you can work for a company that's in New York or California or Washington. We're really seeing that resonate with especially the military spouses that we're bringing through the program. It's giving them that portable type of career that they can take multiple areas. You know, it's not something where you have to get a new certificate every state you move to. You can have a relationship with a company and have a career long term. The other one that we see pretty frequently is there's no limit on the number of certifications you're able to get. So it's not you have to pick one. If you want to go through all of the certifications we offer, you can do that, and it's all completely free. So this is not a one cert thing. This is a opportunity for you to tap into every one of those certifications. For those folks that were asking about getting up to developer status, you have the opportunity to go that entire process, and we're going to cover you and help you to get there and cover all the costs associated with it. The third one, I don't do tech. That's a very frequent, especially for the folks that have been on asking, hey, am I too old to get into this? Everyone here is already doing tech. You've used some sort of software platform previously in your work, or if you're on Facebook or Twitter, or if you're on TikTok, which I obviously am not because I am social media incompetent. You're already involved in tech and you're doing it already. For our service members that are getting out, you had to learn some sort of tech to be able to do your job, whether you're a mechanic and you're dealing with PMCSs and the system to do that, whether you're using email, whether you're in the S1 shop and you're figuring out how to use iPerms or TopMiss, you're already doing it. This is just a new flavor of it. And we talked bridging that civilian military divide. The civilian sector is using these tools to be more effective. We're here to help you to be able to get a leg up and to start running in those areas already. A lot of folks are also going to ask, hey, does this program get me a job at Salesforce? And Salesforce, while we want you to be successful, we are much smaller in our hiring capacity than the 150,000 customers and partners we have. We're limited in the number of job postings that we have. That 4.2 million that we mentioned earlier, that's out in the world with tons of companies that are phenomenal, that offer you the ability to grow. We have seen some folks that eventually come to Salesforce later on down the road, but really the best opportunities that we're seeing for the military community transitioning into this world is with those customers and partners that are clamoring right now to hire you. The last one that I want to hit, for those transitioning service members, one of the biggest hurdles that I dealt with was working with the VA and navigating with the VA. We realized that, and we actually put a trail up on Trailhead that specifically addresses connecting to your VA benefits. So if you're looking at buying a home and utilizing your VA loan, if you're interested in a streamlined explanation of how to tap into submitting for your disability benefits or getting healthcare through the VA, there was a trail, the veterans VA benefits for veterans that's on Trailhead. We've worked with the VA to build this and publish it. The VA is a huge customer of Salesforce. A lot of their innovations that they're putting in place to try and improve their service offerings is coming on the Salesforce platform. Very, very proud about our relationship with the VA, but that module specifically is a way for our transitioning service members to get a much, much smoother, streamlined, boiled down access to the benefits. I know not directly related, but I know for transitioning folks, that is one of the most daunting things that they can possibly navigate is, how do they get connected to the VA smoothly? So I talked for a whole bunch there, but I appreciate it.
No, great points. I'm glad you did there, Jared, and sorry I didn't ask you. I should have known there would be more that is very pertinent. And I also see a couple of questions on individuals trying to figure out about the voucher. So when you complete the modules, then you will have the opportunity to request the voucher. I saw that popped up a couple of times just here since Jared started talking.
Yeah, and there's that trail mix, a specific set of training modules. It's like a little mini reward. It's like an Easter egg within the system. Once you complete that training, you're automatically going to be presented with the certification voucher or the option to opt into one of the classes that are offered to be able to further your training on that specific the specific trail mix or path you're on.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And then anybody else who has specific questions, feel free to email me. And we appreciate your time today. This will be up on our website in about a week. So we will have that opportunity for you to reference if there's any further questions for that. So thanks so much. Have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.